What's up, guys? It's Dakota, and this is another card spotlight that kind of does double duty this time, being kind of a modern all-star and also a standard all-star. And that's probably one of the best removal spells that has been printed in a while, honestly. Fatal Push. Fatal Push is a 1 black for an instant that says destroy target creature if its converted mana cost is 2 or less. With Revolt, that says destroy target creature with converted mana cost 4 or less instead if a permanent you controlled left the battlefield this turn. So, in standard, actually, let me start off with this. When this card was spoiled, everyone was thinking all the potential that it had in Modern with the fetch lands and just other creatures that were played in Modern that were just so easy to kill even without it being revolted, like Tarmogoyf. Came to mind instantly. Like, this is another thing to kill Tarmogoyf. This is better than having Bolt, because you bolt their Tarmogoyf, they more than likely just live afterwards, and it kind of feels stupid if you don't know how that interaction with a 2/3 Goyf without instant in the graveyard works, and you try to bolt it. So, kind of going over why this card's good in standard. First off, I mean, we know that with the 2 dominant decks, and we know that there's a third one in Temur. I think it's Temur Tower, but honestly, the 2 main decks are Saheeli combo and any variant of Saheeli combo and any variant of Mardu, whether it's Mardu vehicles, Mardu aggro. It just deals with unrevolted. It deals with their Hardy Kirans. It deals with their Scrap Heap Scroungers. Even though the Scroungers come back, it's still annoying when they die. Their Toolcraft Exemplars, Thraben Inspector for whatever reason. And then Revolted, obviously, it deals with their bigger things like Thalia, Depala, and in the Saheeli deck, it deals with their Felidar Guardians, which in that matchup you probably don't want it after game 1, but it's still to keep in mind that Fatal Push can kill a Felidar Guardian if you're able to revolt it, and it just makes other black decks more competitive, because instead of having double black for Grasp of Darkness, or double black and 1 for Murder, or for the other black removal spell that you can awaken, Ruinous Path. That's what it is. You can tell that I script this so perfectly, but yeah, those, instead of having to pay 2 extra mana for just to outright destroy or to get rid of a creature, Fatal Push kind of alleviates that stress of having double black to just narrowing it down to only being able to kill something at the highest that costs 4 or more, which again in standard, and what we'll get to in a second, Modern, it's actually just basically should say destroy target creature. I mean, that's flat out, that's what it should say. But getting into Modern now with this card, because it's made a lot of decks like Fairies that instantly came to mind to people, and other decks like Jund, just basically thinking like, hold on now, in Jund, should we like split between bolts and fatal pushes? Or should, with Fairies, it gives it like the extra removal spell, it gives it another 1 drop in the deck that can deal with just anything that's giving it trouble on the battlefield, and help itself out in combat a lot. And again, with fetch lands, it's able to meet that revolt requirement to just being able to kill something 4 or less. And honestly, Fatal Push right now, from what I've seen in the meta and everything, Death Shadow is a huge thing. Well, what does Death Shadow play? Nothing that costs 4 or more, unless maybe some, like I've seen like some variants of it, like Sultai Death Shadow plays like Tasigur, but I mean, other than Tasigur, like the Fatal Push just hits almost every creature and every variant of it. I'm sure that there's someone that plays like Gurmag Angler as well. It doesn't hit Gurmag Angler, but it hits Death Shadow, the namesake of the deck. It hits their Tarmogoyfs, it hits their Scavenging Oozes, and it's just kind of a catch-all in those decks. And then in the Jund variants, I'm almost 99% sure that it takes out all of their creatures. So, and then in any given matchup, you're playing against a deck that is most likely either playing Tarmogoyfs or is playing just something at that 2 and 3 drop slot that's so important. Like, you could be playing against an Abzan deck, and even if their chain goes up to 4, then the only thing you're not killing from them is Thragtusk. And if they're getting to Thragtusk mana, and that's what they want to do with their turn, that's fine. Like in Jund, you have so many other ways just to kill creatures. For like another red, you have Terminate to destroy a creature, which is totally fine. It, in decks that can utilize this card, it doesn't have to kill everything, because say in fairies, this thing just has to kill all the early stuff, and then their counter spells and spell stutter sprites can take care of the other creatures or other spells while just being able to counter it. And then obviously with Jund being another one, this card can just kill all the early stuff, and then Terminates and Kolaghan's commands and all those other things can take out just other random things, while Kolaghan's command can also give you a different mode as well. And that's kind of what makes this card super special, and why there's really no replacement for Fatal Push, and why it's just kind of nestled its way in as basically a black path with no downside. Which is kind of crazy they print a card like this, because like the downside to it is you can't kill anything that costs 4 or greater unless you have a permanent leave the battlefield. While in Standard, that's kind of hard. It won't be as hard now because they're reprinting Evolving Wilds, so it's kind of a cheap way to do it, at least on turn 2, to have Revolt active. But in reality, that isn't really a drawback in a format like Modern, where there's fetch lands where creatures can be sacrificed to do certain things for free without having to pay some kind of cost, and just basically being able to kill your own things or to do stuff with your own things to get value, while also making a removal spell that is just almost second to none. Like Path to Exile, I'm gonna make a debate about this later, and hopefully, it kind of settles the debate of it. I think personally in Modern, like, you want to be playing Fatal Push over Path to Exile, even though players aren't playing that many basics anyway, and Path to Exile after the second one is usually just a free exile creature for 1. But still, in my opinion, Fatal Push is the better one, and I'll get into that in another video, but that's where I'm going to leave this off. I hope you guys enjoyed this card spotlight. Be looking for another one, probably either later this week or next week, whenever I really get a chance to. I only really want to focus on cards that are widely played in the format, or cards that are kind of like niche that make a deck better. In this case, Fatal Push is now, I believe, on MTG Top 8, the website where I check out like deck lists and stuff, see like metagame breakdown, and really what card is played where the most. I believe Fatal Push was like 2nd or 3rd on that list, and before Aether Revolt came out, Bolt and Path to Exile were at 30 and 20% and I think Fatal Push is at like 30 to 40%. I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to recheck that because it's been a few weeks since I even checked that, but even then, this card was almost number 1 most card played, and we just got it less than 6 months ago, or around 6 months ago. In some time frame, this card is very, very new in this game's history, and it's taken a format by storm and just made it a lot harder to play creature matchups while still having a creature deck that is still considered the number 1 deck in the format. But make sure you guys leave a like on the video if you enjoyed. I'll be making new ones soon. I'll be coming out with more Magic stuff here in a bit. I'm not going to be going to a pre-release this week. I got other stuff I got going on. So hopefully I can do something with this new set before we have Hour of Devastation coming out. But yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next episode.